my name is Grace Mwete from the Open University of Tanzania, and in this lecture we're going to learn about a server-side scripting technology called Ajax. The lecture covers the following concepts. We're going to learn on what is Ajax, why use Ajax, and we're going to learn the difference between Ajax and a classical web approach. After that, we're going to look on how does Ajax works. We are going to look at XML HTTP requests, and we're also going to look at how to make an Ajax application, and finally we're going to look at live examples of Ajax. So what is Ajax? Ajax is a technology which is used to develop interactive web applications that are able to process user requests immediately. Ajax can selectively modify a part of a page displayed by a browser and update it without the need to reload the whole document with all its images and menus. The way asynchronous in Ajax means that the request to the server will be made. Then the response will be made available by the server after it has finished processing the request without having to wait for it explicitly to come back. That means you don't have to wait for an answer. So why use Ajax? There are several problems in loading and uploading of web pages, but the common problem is web pages always reload and never get updated, creating a break in user interaction with the web. Secondly, users wait for entire page to load, even if at that time they only need a single piece of data. Another reason is that there is a restriction on single request and response mode. Also, a need for complicated user interface components brings about problems in accessing web pages. So what are the technologies involved in Ajax? The first one is JavaScript. This is used to bind everything together in Ajax. Secondly, we've got HTML and cascading style sheet, CSS. This is used for presentation and to provide style classes for the component styling. Another one is XML HTTP requests. These provide asynchronous data retrieval, and also we have document object model or DOM for dynamic display and interaction. This provides a tree structure for the components placed in the web page. Finally, we've got extensible markup language XML. This is a format which is used to send data from client to server, though other formats like JSON may also be used in Ajax. Now let us look at the difference between Ajax approach and classical approach. As we can see, in the classical approach, we've got a browser client whereby we've got user interface, and then we've got HTML and cascading style sheets, and then we've got a server system where we have a web server, and then the client sends a request via HTTP request, and then they get a response from the web server by using the same HTML and CSS format. But on the Ajax web application model, there's a difference. In the browser client, you've got the client user interface, but you've got JavaScript with it, and also you've got Ajax engine in it. And on the server side, you got the response, which is responding to the client request in XML format, which is different from what we've seen in the classic web application model. So how does Ajax work? Firstly, a JavaScript function creates and configures an XML HTTP request object on the client and specifies a JavaScript callback function. As we had seen in the diagram, there is a JavaScript within the client web browser. And then after that, the XML HTTP request object makes an asynchronous call to the web server. Then the web server processes the request and returns an XML document that contains the results. The XML HTTP request object calls the callback function and exposes the response from the web server so that the request can be processed. After that, the client updates the HTML DMO object representing the page with the new data. As you can see in this diagram, that shows the processes between client and server and how the request and response and data exchange is being done. Now let us look at XML HTTP request. XML HTTP request object is the key to Ajax programming. Its main purpose is to put an asynchronous HTTP request to the web server. Because of this asynchronous call to the web server, you are allowed to continue using the page without the interruption of a browser refresh and the loading of new or revised page. This XML HTTP request has several properties. Now let us look at these properties. Property 1. Property 1 is, as you can see from this script or from this code, you've got object XML HTTP on ready state change. This property holds the reference or function which is going to process the response from the server. The proc request is the function which will process that particular response. Property 2. Property 2 is the ready state. This property holds the status of the server response. As you can see in the script, it's object XML HTTP.ready state and then equals to that particular state. Now we're going to see the different states that are available during this property. As you can see, there are 4 states and then there's a description for each state. For example, state 0, that means this request is not initialized. When you go to state 1, the request has been set up. And then state 2, the request has been sent. State 3, the request is in process. And then state 4, the request is complete. Now let us look at property number 3 of XML HTTP request. It's written, as you can see in the script, object XML HTTP response text. This property retrieves the data sent back from the server. As you can see, the variable object val and then the property response text. While the response text is used to return text, response XML can be used to return an XML document object, as you can see in the script. Now let us look at live examples of Ajax. We've got Google, Suggest, we've got Gmail, we've got Talk. Those are several examples of Ajax. Now let us look at Ajax security concerns. The first concern is increased complexity. First of all, in Ajax, you need to understand several technologies because it involves more than one technology. And also, backend developers might be not familiar with the client-side coding and vice versa. That brings about a security concern. And it's also difficult to address security in this complex technological mix. Another security concern is that Ajax brings about increased attack area because client code can be more vulnerable and also client code can be viewed. Also, client code can be easily modified by an attacker using an injection type of attack. Also, Ajax is susceptible to denial of service attack. That means many small requests between client and server can bring the whole system down. Heavy loads will exponentially increase the number of requests to the server. That means the system will not be working as it's supposed to be. Another problem is validation. Typically, Ajax implementation has significantly more client-side validation. Client code make calls with a business service layer, and it is easy to bypass client validation. That brings about a security concerns as well. So how do you secure Ajax sites? Firstly, by validation, make sure you validate all inputs. Secondly, all client-side validation must be backed up by server-side validation. Do not implement business logic validation on client side. Make sure you encode all outputs. Another method is you have to use secure libraries in Ajax. Use secure libraries, try them and test them, their components, such as Microsoft Atlas. Also, you need to integrate security in software development lifecycle. That means data classification, functional boundaries. Also in design, do threat modeling, session management, exception handling, auditing and logging. And this is the end of our lecture. In this lecture we've learned what is Ajax, why do you have to use Ajax. We've compared between Ajax and classical web approach. How does Ajax work? We've looked at different properties of XML HTTP requests, and then we've looked at live examples of Ajax, and at the end we've looked at security concerns of Ajax. Thank you very much.